Today, of course, the halfway house is very common, but when was the first halfway house? A lot of people don't perhaps realise how significant this hole is and how there is a wee tail there just hiding behind the cracks. And I know that it's not here right now, but perhaps this is the most important in the history of golf. And that's why I think it's really wonderful that we've covered it in this series. And this is potentially the most important one that we'll cover out of them all. Could I have a flat white, please? That's all, just this croissant as well, and that'll be me. Thank you. It's great to be here in St Andrews at home, not having to travel too far today to go to work. I went to university in St Andrews, and a few years later I bought a little house here in town. I bought it to rent it out, really, and then during the pandemic I moved back, and I've been here ever since. So I've kind of rekindled my love for Scotland and certainly a love for St Andrews. In this part of Fife, it's the place to be really for links golf. Today it's a very short commute to the old course where we're going to meet Roger McStravick, who is the local historian. And obviously we're keeping halfway houses in our mind, but this is actually a particularly unique story because the halfway house we're going to discuss today doesn't exist anymore. And there's a lovely tale that goes with it, and a hole of the old course that's named after it.
The fourth hole is called Ginger Beer Hole and named after that iconic cart that was owned by Daw for David Anderson. He also sold golf balls. You know, if you see the old photograph, there's a beautiful old photograph, and you can see he's also selling golf clubs.
Yeah.
You know, it's ginger beer, he's cutting lemons.
Wow.
So it's ginger beer and lemon is the actual drink.
Whoa.
You know, so it's like a mini golf shop that he's brought out to the fourth hole. He used to have a golf shop himself at 9 the Links, just beside the 18th green.
Yep.
And when that stopped, he basically effectively moved it out onto the fourth hole.
Did it have two wheels?
Two wheels, and you just lifted it. Absolutely.
Off you go.
Yeah, and a little flap that would fold up and, you know, and hold stuff. It was there for if people finished their matches on the 15th. You could just walk across to it, you know. And also the other element to it is, because this cart was a fairly heavy cart, I think probably the fourth hole was as far as Daw could really push it. You know, I don't think it's very scientific, but
yeah. No, it makes sense. Now, am I right in thinking that Daw Anderson had quite a famous player that he caddied for?
Absolutely, Alan Robertson. Alan Robertson was the champion golfer. You know, he was the best golfer in Scotland and therefore the world.
What year are we talking?
1840s, 1850s.
Okay. Right.
And it was a title that Alan guarded really jealously, you know, and when Willie Park challenged him in the 1850s, he was suddenly very busy and didn't want the challenge. But when Alan died, it left that question, you know, who is the new champion golfer? That's why Prestwick created the Open Championship. Every year at the Open Championship, they still say the champion golfer of the year is, and that dates right back to Alan Robertson.
Alan Robertson.
Who Daw caddied for.
Daw caddied for him and no doubt gave him a few ginger beers as he was, you know, out there on the links. It's a great golfing drink, ginger beer, because it's got that kind of spicy warmth to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It has that sort of garum, you know, the Indian sort of spices in it, you know. Whereas tea would cool you down, ginger beer warms you up, but also they would have it with lemon as well. So, you know, you got to think in the 19th century, you know, if you get a sniffle, you're halfway down the tunnel of light, you know. You know. So if you're out on the links, you know, it's a really good 19th century version of sort of Lucozade or something, you know. It sort of peps you up a bit.
So Roger, obviously this is prized land now, and these are some of the most desirable flats and houses in the world, really, let alone the world of golf. And we're headed over to that one there, the 9 the Links, which you mentioned is where Daw and his son used to live.
Jamie, his son, he won 3 Opens in a row, you know. And the person that everybody wants to see and the crowds want to see is Daw's son, and he just lives there. But he effectively left 9 the Links to, you know, work as a professional. And at that point, they sold the house, you know, because for that they had Jamie upstairs and downstairs was the shop.
Yeah.
So Daw then effectively took the shop and brought it out to the fourth hole.
Now, of course, it's a holiday home.
It is, yeah.
And I mean, it's a lucky chap that owns it as a holiday home, because It is just the most wonderful spot. Right there, looking onto the 18th green, the R&A clubhouse just behind. Some place to live, huh?
I know, special. But you're in a row of special places. Tom Morris is next door. He's your neighbour. See where the claret jug is now?
Yeah.
You know, that was Tom Morris's shop. This is Daw in one of the most prestigious streets in St Andrews.
Yeah.
And this is where he lives, you know, so he's not a rag and bone man.
No.
This is a man of some importance, you know.
Do you think he was probably quite sad when he had to leave?
Yeah, no, I genuinely do, you know. Victorians were a judgy bunch of people, you know. They were very religious, but ironically really judgmental. You know, those two things don't necessarily go together.
Yeah.
And to go from this high status street to College Street would have felt like, you know, things aren't going so well. But he did very well all the way through, you know, until he died, really. You know, he was living by his own means. He didn't need any support, wasn't getting support from his sons. You know, he was making enough money on the ginger beer.
Ginger beer, yeah, that was it.
Absolutely, you know.
We've got to go up and take a closer look, Roger, because I think it would be rude not to, since we're this close. Let's go up there. Wow.
This is special.
What an amazing view, Roger. This is just magnificent.
It is just a wonderful place to be, isn't it, really? You know, it's special. Jimmy and Daw would have woken up to this every morning.
Incredible.
You know? Yeah, just, you know, what a standard of life they would have had.
I know. It's a shame we don't have a ginger beer here to toast. I really do think that someone else could get a little cart and take it out.
I love the idea of that cart being there, you know,
I do
and a
too.
little touch of tradition, you know.
What a treat to just stand up here, look across the links and reflect on a moment in history. The ginger beer cart at the Fourth Hole of the Old. It's been a really good day to uncover a little slice of history here in St Andrews. Bet you he went out there, rain, hail, sleet or snow, because they're always out there hitting the wee white ball. It's quite an exposed part of the golf course though, there's not a lot of shelter here, so on a cold day he would have, you know, probably had to really wrap up and set out all his little bottles of ginger beer and just sold them one by one. And if he ran out of stock he could nip back and restock the cart again, I suppose. Today, of course, the halfway house is very common. You don't often get an 18-hole golf course that doesn't have a halfway house, but perhaps this is one of the most poignant and one of the most important halfway stalls in the history of golf. And I know that it's not here right now, but the ingenuity of it, the, you know, real initiative and entrepreneurialism to think about doing something like that. I would like it if halfway huts did sell golf balls and golf gloves, because sometimes I do run out. And then the other day I went out with my golf glove and I ripped the thumb, and if they'd been selling it halfway, I would have bought a new one. It's called the ancient home of golf, and it's stories and tales like the ginger beer at the Fourth Hole that make it what it is today. But at some point in the future, I would love to see them recreate the stall that Daw Anderson used to have here at the back of the Fourth, selling little bottles of ginger beer, a couple of golf clubs and a few golf balls. I think that would be really nice, so watch this space. Well, I'm giving myself that. Daw Anderson, that par was for you. Thank you for your ginger beers. Fancy popping into his house now just for a hot refreshment.